Okay, I think we are up and running. Hey, how's it going? It is your muscle building coach, Lee Hayward, with another live video Q&A. So for the next hour or so, I'll be hanging out here on YouTube and answering any questions, comments, feedback, anything that you want to discuss with regards to bodybuilding, fitness, losing fat, building muscle, any specific challenges that you're dealing with when it comes to your workouts or your nutrition program. Feel free to post those in our video chat, and I'll do my best to help you out as well as I can for the next hour. So I'm just going to get things underway here now for our chat. So while I'm getting things underway, if you have anything that you want to discuss, please feel free to post it. And I'll take them on a first come, first serve basis. Okay, I just want to make sure that everything's coming through loud and clear. So I always like to start off with a video and an audio check. So if you are watching this live right now, please let me know if you can hear me, see me, and that it's coming through loud and clear. All right. Just give me a moment here. All right, there's our, just got to get the chat window. I have two different windows. For some reason, I have to open up a new window in order to see the chat. So just bear with me. I can see that there are questions and comments coming through already. So there we are. Okay, good stuff. All right, we have Nima's joining us, Chris joining us. Again, I just want to make sure that you can hear me, see me loud and clear. Okay, that's good. Let's get going. Chris, what's he say? Optimum gave me a dry mouth. I don't know what you're talking about, Optimum, unless you mean Optimum Protein. And if that's the case, then I don't know, try another protein. If you want to expand on that question, I don't know what you're asking, so feel free to repost it or to expand on it. But I'm just going to move on. Michael's joining us, and he says, "Hey, Coach, I love your stuff. You've always been my chief resource in my routines. Sorry. All right, thanks, Michael. Glad you enjoy the videos and the content, and always happy to help out." Okay, Chris is saying that he's bloated from his multivitamin. That's awful strange. I've never really heard of that, unless it's possibly an allergic reaction to the vitamin. Again, I've never really heard of anyone getting bloated from them, but one thing that you might want to look into if you are taking vitamins is that you should probably take them with food rather than taking them on an empty stomach. They can sometimes, certain vitamins and minerals, depending on whatever it is that you're taking, some are actually better digested on an empty stomach, but others actually require some food in your system, or they'll be at least digested better when you have food in your system. So if you are having problems, stomach issues with your vitamins, you might want to look into that. I know sometimes when I've taken certain vitamins, and especially a multivitamin in the past on an empty stomach, it's caused me an upset tummy, basically, cramps or just a discomforting feeling in the stomach. So you might want to look into taking it with food if you haven't been already, and that might help. And if nothing else, then just try another brand or another type of vitamin. And it could be something in that particular brand that's just not sitting well with you. Wilfred's joining us, and he says, "Lee, what are some good composition exercises," maybe means compound exercises, "to gain size fast?" The basics are going to help you with gaining size fast. Things like your big compound exercises. But one thing that a lot of people probably don't focus on a lot when it comes to making fast gains is body weight exercises. You can make a lot of progress with body weight moves, and I'm going to kind of use myself as an example. Before I started getting into serious weight training, I did a lot of body weight exercises at home, And that really gave me a head start in terms of my development. Now, there was a lot of things going on. When I started training, I was young. Obviously, when you start training, you're in your first year of training, so your body's going to respond really well to pretty much whatever you do on a consistent basis. But in my case, I did a lot of push-ups. I did a lot of body weight squats, and I did a lot of other types of body weight exercises, because when I was starting off, I did a lot of martial arts. I kind of doing martial arts first and then got into weight training afterwards. And as a martial artist, we do a lot of body weight exercises as part of our workouts. So when I was training at home, I would do a lot of body weight exercises to help me prepare and get better with the martial arts training. So push-ups, I was doing them on a daily basis, and I found that that really helped to, speed up growth in my chest. Squats and different kicking exercises from the martial arts, I was doing those on a daily basis, and I found that that really helped me to develop my legs fast. So that's something that you might want to look into. In addition to your basic weight training exercises, doing some extra body weight exercises, especially for the areas that you find are troublesome. So if the chest is a troublesome area, you want to gain some size in the chest, make sure you're doing push-ups. It's one of the best exercises that you can do. If your legs are stubborn, do a lot of body weight squats, a lot of lunges, a lot of step-ups, a lot of jump squats, things of that nature. That's going to really help to stimulate the legs. If the calves are stubborn, a lot of body weight calf raises. High repetitions. None of the, obviously, if you're doing body weight exercises, you're going beyond the low repetitions that you often hear you need for building size. You're going to be doing a lot more than 8 to 10 reps. But that's fine. The time under tension and the sheer volume of repetitions and pumping blood and nutrients into those muscles can really help to spur on some new growth. What are some other ones? Obviously, pull-up variations for your back. If your lats, your arms are stubborn, get good at pull-ups, and that will definitely help to make good gains in those areas. When it comes to shoulders, a lot of times you're going to see a side effect of when you do push-ups. I mean, the secondary muscles coming into play are the shoulders and triceps, so that'll carry over. Same thing when you're doing pull-ups. A lot of the secondary muscles are going to be the biceps and the upper back, rear delt areas. But you could also try doing like shoulder handstand push-ups. So it's kind of like a shoulder press variation with your body weight. I've done a lot of those back in the day, and I found that that's a really good one as well. So, we can go on and on, but if you're looking for something that you're probably not doing a lot of and you want to kind of maximize your training, look into doing some extra body weight exercises, especially for your stubborn body parts, and I think you'll notice a big improvement that way. Okay, let's move it on. Coffee's extra good today. We have Kali is joining us, and he says, should we do cardio after every workout? It really depends. How much cardio you do is going to vary depending on your body type, your goals, and of course, your schedule. So if your goal is fat loss, then I would recommend doing more cardio. Ideally, I would even venture to say do daily cardio if your goal is fat loss. Now, it doesn't always have to be high intensity cardio, but do something. It could be as simple as getting outside for a walk. It could be using the cardio machines at the gym. It could be a whole lot of stuff, but do some sort of daily cardiovascular exercise where you're keeping your body moving, getting your heart rate elevated, and burning some extra calories. The more you do, the better it's going to be for fat loss, within reason. Now, of course, you can overdo anything, but within reason. If you're doing between like half hour to an hour of cardio a day in addition to your weight training, that is going to be phenomenal for burning body fat. Now, if you're not trying to burn body fat and you're trying to gain muscle, then you don't necessarily have to do as much. You might want to kind of scale it back in order to conserve those calories towards building muscle. So should you do it after every workout? No, you don't necessarily have to. If you're, again, hard gainer trying to pack on size, then no, you don't have to. If your schedule doesn't allow it, if you're pressed for time and you can only get in, say, let's just say you have 1 hour to train and you want to make the most of that, I would probably prioritize weight training over cardiovascular training during that 1 hour, and then you can look into doing the cardio at another time. Again, maybe getting outside for a walk or whatever. but it really depends on your individual schedule. So there's really no hard set rules that cardio has to be done after every workout. Vanessa is joining us, and she's just saying that everything's coming through loud and clear. Check. Thank you much, Vanessa. I do appreciate that. Chris is asking my opinion on full body versus body part splits. I kind of went into a lot of detail on this one during our last week's video chat, but I know we obviously have different people joining in each week. But a quick and simple answer, both approaches work. There's no one size fits all perfect workout when it comes to different training styles. I like to incorporate both styles. I mean, I'll go through phases of full body training, and I like to go through phases of doing body part splits. And there are pros and cons to both. Obviously, the advantage of a full body workout is you're going to be hitting your muscle groups more frequently, but you're generally not going to be doing as many exercises or getting as much training variety in those workouts. The benefit of a body part split is you'll get a lot more training variety and exercise stimulation when you do the actual workouts, but due to the nature of splitting up your body parts and doing more volume, then you're not going to be able to hit those body parts as frequently. So again, it's a pro and con to both approaches. It's not that, you know, this is superior or that's superior. What very often happens is if you're always doing one style of training and you've kind of adapted and maybe even starting to plateau with that style of training, and then you switch it up and do another style, that's when you'll see your best progress. So if you're looking for the best workout is one that your body is not accustomed to. So you want to go through this phase of letting your body grow, adapt, and plateau. And every training program you follow is going to follow this to some degree. You're going to follow a workout routine. Again, could be a full body routine, could be a body part split, could be upper lower split, push pull legs, bodybuilding bro split, whatever. Every workout program is going to go through this to some degree. You're going to start that program. Your body is going to grow in response to it. So you're going to, it's going to adapt in response to that program. And in that process of adapting to the exercises, adapting to the stress of that program, your body is going to grow. Then eventually it's going to hit a plateau. So we go through that: adapt, grow, and then plateau. You stick with a program long enough, sooner or later your progress is going to slow down. I'm not saying that you can't still make progress through other means, like through progressive overload and just being consistent with your training, consistent with your nutrition. I mean, yeah, you can still make progress that way. But generally speaking, you're going to see the fastest progress when you first start a program. Within, say, that first 6 weeks of a new program, that's when you're going to get the most bang for your buck. After that, things are probably going to start to slow down. Once you get to the point where you're no longer making good progress with that program, or worse, you're even starting to backtrack, meaning you're losing strength. You can't even duplicate the lifts that you were doing, you know, in the weeks prior to this. And this very often happens. You see guys like doing a power training program, for example, and they're really focusing on their power lifts, and then all of a sudden they say, well, gee, I can't even bench press the same as what I was benching, you know, 2 weeks ago. What's wrong? Once you get to that point where you've plateaued, or you're even backtracking, where you're starting to lose strength, that's your cue right there that you need to change it up and try something different. And in terms of trying something different, you could incorporate a different split. You know, if you're doing a body part split, try full body. If you're doing a full body, try body part split. Or you could even keep the same split and just vary the exercises, or vary the set and rep pattern, vary something in order to provide your body with some unique muscle stimulation. In some cases, it might be a full-on deload, where you actually, you know, have to reduce the training volume, reduce the intensity, and give your body a break in order to allow it to fully recover and to prepare for the next growth phase. So, I mean, there's that one little one-liner, full body versus body part split. I mean, there's so many other variables that come into play once we start discussing it, that there's, again, no one size fits all answer for anybody. You really need to look at the individual, what it is that they're doing, what it is that they're trying to achieve, and adjust it accordingly. We have Wilford joining us. We have Erica's joining us. I said I did the one leg calf raise this morning. Holy shit. I guess he's referring to the one I posted in the my most recent training video, the single leg bodyweight calf raise. It's a simple exercise, but damn, it works. It really does. I can tell you that right now. It is a kick-ass exercise because first off, it's a body weight move. So you're getting that neuromuscular stimulation when you do body weight exercises that you don't get when you're doing exercises where you're just moving your limbs. But it's so simple, and it really isolates each individual calf. It allows you to go through full range of motion, use good form, and it's one that you can do anywhere. You can do it at home in your spare time. You can do it at the gym. Back when again, like I mentioned earlier in the chat, when I was doing all these body weight exercises, training for martial arts, that single leg body weight calf raise I actually got from my martial arts instructor back 20 plus years ago. So that's where that exercise came from for me. Now, I'm sure he learned it from somebody else. I'm not saying he invented it, but that's where I learned about it. Anyway, what's this? We got a $10 came through the super chats. Thank you very much. This one is from Respergu. I can't even. Respergu. Respergu. If I'm mispronouncing your name, I do apologize, but thank you for the tip. Very, very much appreciated. He says, "Hey Lee, keep up the good work and stay clean. I hope you don't do steroids. See what happened to Rich Piana." Yeah, there's a lot of things going on with that. I mean, I was a big fan of, not necessarily of Rich Piana's lifestyle or anything like that, but I was a fan of his videos because he was different and he did tell it like it was. I have to say that. But look where it got him, right? I mean, you know, you can only abuse your body so much. But I did like his honesty and some of his views on training. I did watch his videos occasionally, and I did kind of like some of the things, like one of his strategies of doing feeder workouts for stubborn body parts. That kind of stands out in my mind. You know, just his attitude in terms of the consistency and the hard work that goes into training. You know, really pushing, not necessarily pushing your limits, but just the mentality and the grind that goes into basically achieving the top levels of bodybuilding. So I was somewhat of a fan of his videos, but again, I wasn't a fan of the lifestyle, and I certainly don't plan on doing, you know, taking things to that level and doing performance-enhancing drugs and all that kind of stuff. But thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Let's move on. What else we got? Eric said one-legged calves. Nima, I'm always trying to lift for hypertrophy, so have never gone under 5 reps. On a typical day, my rep ranges will vary from 8 to 20 slow and controlled reps. In fact, I hardly go for 5s. I'm not sure if that's a question or just a statement. For the most part, and for most people, that's perfectly fine. You really don't need to do super low repetitions. But as you become more advanced, there are advantages to experimenting with really high reps and really low reps. And what you'll find when you do really low reps, i.e. 5 reps or less, is it does help to train the more explosive muscle fibers, you know, those fast twitch muscle fibers, but it allows you to handle heavier weight without the fatigue of high repetitions. So there are certain exercises that actually work well for lower reps. For example, deadlifts can work well for lower reps. I find overhead presses, the standing barbell military press, can work well for low reps. Even sometimes squats work well for low reps. But there's a kicker when I'm doing these low rep sets for these exercises. You don't have to train to failure in that low rep range. It's okay to stop shy of failure and still keep the reps low. You see a lot of powerlifters will actually do this. Anybody who's a fan of powerlifting, especially methods like the West Side barbell method of training, they do multiple sets of low reps. And a lot of different powerlifter programs will include multiple sets of low reps, stopping short of failure. So they're not repping out to failure like a typical bodybuilding program. They're purposely keeping their rep ranges in a set guideline, like say doing 10 sets of 3 or something like that, and stopping at 3 reps. And the reason why they stop it before failure at a set number of reps is because they want to be explosive. They want to be able to handle that weight consistently, work on their technique. And by doing multiple sets of lower reps, it can help to increase total training volume, but it also gives you more first reps. Like, if, for example, let's just say you did bench presses, you did 3 sets of 10, or you did 10 sets of 3. From a powerlifting point of view, you would be better off doing 10 sets of 3, even though the total number of repetitions is the same. But by doing 10 sets of 3, you set up on the bench 10 times. You get 10 first reps. So going through that whole position, getting your body set up, getting your shoulder blades tucked and in position, on-racking the bar, you do that 10 times when you do 10 sets of 3. Whereas if you do 3 sets of 10, you only do it 3 times. And powerlifting is all about the first rep, the 1 rep max that you're doing in competition. So that's why you'll see a lot of powerlifters and strength athletes go for multiple sets of lower reps, because they can get more first reps and really work on the technique and the setup aspect of training. It's a different mindset from muscle building in terms of hypertrophy / bodybuilding training, but both can be complementary. Some of the biggest bodybuilders and most successful bodybuilders were at one time powerlifters. So you can use power training as a supplementary form to aid with hypertrophy training as well. I've often recommended to some coaching clients that in-season powerlifting is great off-season bodybuilding, and vice versa, because you're getting the contrast in the training, and it works in a complementary fashion. A lot of people refer to this like as power bodybuilding, but to have this idea that I'm never going to go and do low reps, it's probably not necessarily the best approach for more advanced lifters. There will probably come a time in your training where you can actually benefit from those low reps. Now, for someone who's just starting off, you're still in your first year or two of training, there's no need of it. But once you get beyond that initial, beginner, intermediate phase, and you're pushing, the envelope and looking for more advanced strategies to speed up your progress, then certainly lower rep training and more advanced power training strategies can be useful to just basically spur on some new growth and to take your training to another level. So keep that in the back of your mind. Be open-minded to different styles of training. Don't have this narrow-minded fixed set that I'm never going to do a certain style of training, because it may be valuable at some point. We have Jason. Jason Gonzalez is joining us, and he says, hope all is well. I have a question. I'm having an elbow issue. It's on the outside. What do you recommend? So elbow on the outside sounds like tennis elbow tendonitis. First off, if there's any particular exercises that causes that to flare up more than other exercises, then don't do the bad exercises. And like for example, let's just say that a certain tricep move, maybe a tricep kickback just kills your elbow. Well, don't do tricep kickbacks. Or if you find that a certain pressing variation just kills your elbow, then try and not use that pressing variation and do something else. So you want to experiment with the moves that you do in order to try and work around it the best you can. Another thing you may notice as well is sometimes stupid things that, like, you're not necessarily trying to train, but even like racking and unracking the weights at the gym, like loading the barbell plates onto the bar, picking the plate up probably causes your elbow to flare up, just that weird motion. So you'll probably want to kind of try and either lift it with the other hand or pick up the weights in such a way that doesn't place strain on the tendonitis. I used to find that a lot when my tendonitis would flare up, is not necessarily the exercises that I'm doing in the gym, but sometimes just stupid stuff like carrying my gym bag, opening the door, or things like that. Sometimes even, cooking, stirring the pot, and then lifting pots and pans and stuff like that would probably put the strain on the elbow in that weird way that caused the pain to flare up. So anything that you find that causes repetitive pain like that, try and avoid it the best you can. You can also get tennis elbow or elbow tendonitis braces that help to hold the tendons and ligaments in place. I found some of those to be quite helpful. You can, if you might be able to find them at a sporting goods store if you can, or you can even go online and search for them. There's a lot of different braces available, but they may help just to keep the tendons in line to prevent the aggravation. Other than that, what I would recommend to basically allow that to heal is some rehab work for your hands, stretching your hands. So literally like stretching your hands forwards like this, stretching them back down like this will help to stretch out the tendons and ligaments. You can do that on a regular basis. Light gripping exercises like finger extensors, even with just, no resistance at all, and squeeze, open, that can help to, just provide some light stimulation for those tendons and ligaments. Another one that can help as well is doing some hand gripper work. Obviously, if it causes pain, then you want to go easy with it. But I found that when I use hand grippers and strengthen my forearms on a regular basis, it tends to minimize, kind of more so in a proactive way rather than if you've already got it injured. But I found that when I was consistent with hand gripper training, very often I would not get the elbow tendonitis as much. So you would want to make sure that you're doing some forearm training on a regular basis as well. But stuff like this, you really have to kind of let it heal and try and avoid anything that's going to aggravate that injury. As far as supplementation is concerned, omega-3 fatty acids, fish oil, that can definitely help because it's an anti-inflammatory. You might want to look into some joint supplements as well. I mean, I know like things like glucosamine and chondroitin can help. Turmeric is another anti-inflammatory supplement that you might want to look into as well. I've used all those with some success. I mean, it's not a magic cure, but it can help if you are dealing with inflammation and joint and tendon pain. Things like that do help. Vitamin C is another one. You might want to make sure that you're getting enough of that, if not, even consider supplementing it. But those things can help, but the main thing is just letting it heal and avoiding causing excessive strain to that elbow. I mean, I've dealt with it myself, and I know how bad it is when you do get elbow tendonitis because it's really a pain in the ass, and it just hinders your training because you want to train, you're physically feel strong and able to train, but as soon as you do it, you just get this nagging, weak pain, and it just hinders the whole process. All right, let's see what else we've got. MT Woods Runner says, I love your channel, Lee. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate the feedback. I'm glad you do like the videos. Nitin Nitinsaha. Nitin Saha. What's your view on full body workout and a push-pull leg day? I already covered that one previously, so if you haven't, if you're just joining and you didn't hear the answer to that, it'll be available in the replay. But literally, that was like one of the first questions that came through, and I went into a fair bit of detail about my opinion on different body part and full body workout splits. Moses Escobar says, hi Lee, how can I join the Inner Circle Club? I need some more help with choosing good foods to lean bulk, and not to mention a new workout program for size because I'm stuck. Thanks. The Total Fitness Bodybuilding, I mean, if you want, you can message me personally, or you can just head on over to totalfitnessbodybuilding.com. That is the website for the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Inner Circle Coaching Club. And the way that works is it's a private, members-only website. I share my best training programs. So, I mean, there's literally dozens of different workout programs, from full body programs to different body part splits to push-pull leg routines to various power training programs, 5x5 programs, you name it. I mean, basically every program that I have followed over the past 20 plus years that I've been at this and I found to be beneficial, you will find it on the Inner Circle Coaching Club. I have basically my workout database along with my own personal insights and feedback about those individual programs. In addition to that, you'll get access to all my best training programs, like ebook programs for mass building, for fat loss, for bodybuilding competition training. You find all that there. There's a whole database of ebook programs that's available. We have a private members discussion forum, and this is kind of the heart of the Inner Circle, because I'm in on that private members forum every single day, chatting with the members, and it's a very supportive environment. So we have a small group of guys there. There are some girls, but primarily guys. All right, it's brothers of iron on the inner circle, and we basically chat, and I follow along with their program. So the guys will post their training logs, post what they're doing in the gym on a regular basis, and I'll go in there and I'll follow on, and I'll basically offer comments and feedback and suggestions on how they can optimize their training. So if they're dealing with any specific challenges, they're hitting a plateau, or they're working towards a specific goal, I'll be in there and offering tips and suggestions on how they can tweak their program or tweak their nutrition in order to optimize the results. And that's the key right there, because I mean, you can go and buy a program, like you can go and buy a book or buy a video course or something like that, and you might get phenomenal information, but how do you go about tweaking that information and customizing it to your body type, to your situation? Or what do you do when you hit a plateau and that program is no longer working? I mean, you might not need to scrap the whole program. You might just need to tweak it a little bit. And that's where having an experienced coach in your corner can help, right? So that's the whole idea of the Inner Circle Coaching Club. It's an affordable option for coaching, because it's, instead of just like one-on-one, which is very intensive and more demanding, it's a group coaching. So we have this members forum where everybody can chat with one another and basically help each other out. But it's basically just a supportive group of online brothers of iron who are interested in helping each other out. So if you want to become a member, head on over to totalfitnessbodybuilding.com. Read through the page. You can sign up, try it for a month, or if you want, you can sign up for a full year and save a significant amount of money, because obviously the full year membership works out a lot cheaper than the monthly membership. All right. If you have any questions, or if you have any trouble signing up or anything like that, you can message me personally. Either want to send me a private message through YouTube, that's fine. I check those, or you can just message me right through my website as well. Raider is joining us, and he says, do you think training a body part once a week will give you good gains? Yes, training a body part at all is going to give you good gains. It kind of goes back to the whole full body versus body part split. You can make gains training with all these different frequencies, with all these different programs. It really comes down to, monitoring your results and adjusting the training and adjusting the program according to your body and how it's responding. But yeah, you can make great gains training once a week. Training a body part once a week, that is. Now, the way I would recommend it, like, if a lot of people are asking this, so I'm basically going to give you like a general template of how I would recommend most people start their workouts. If you've never joined the gym before, you're brand new, I would have you go in there and do a full body workout 3 days a week. I actually have a sample full body workout posted on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel right on the main page. Just go down, there's a beginner's total body workout. Very often, that's where I recommend most people start. Do that for anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks, depending on how you're responding. I mean, if you're following that for 12 weeks and you're still making gains with it, then keep going. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But follow it for somewhere in that 6 to 12 week range. And after that, one of two things is going to happen. Either your progress is probably going to slow down, or you're going to get bored. And once either one of those things happen, you need to change it up. So, I mean, if you start to get bored with a program, then it's only a matter of time before your progress starts to slow down as well. Because as silly as it is, your enthusiasm towards your training has a big impact in the level of progress that you make. If you're not enthusiastic and motivated and feeling good about your workouts, it's kind of hard to make progress with it. It's just as silly as it is, enthusiasm has a big role in your overall progress. So once you get to the point where you're bored, probably a plateau is just around the corner. Once you want to change that up, I would probably move into something like an upper lower body split routine. This is going to allow a bit more training variety in terms of the exercises you can do. And it's also going to reduce the training frequency. So if you did the total body workout 3 days a week, you're hitting each body part 3 days a week with limited training stimulation, because you're usually only doing one exercise per body part. If you're doing an upper lower split, you're going to do a bit more volume or a bit more variety per body part, but the frequency is going to be down, because we're probably training 4 days a week, hitting each body part twice. So upper lower take a day off, upper, lower, and then take 1 or 2 days off, and then repeat the cycle. Once you've been doing that for, say, 6 to 12 weeks, either you start to hit a plateau with that program or you get bored. Then I would maybe move into a more advanced split, something along the lines of a push-pull legs. That breaks up the training frequency a little bit more. So you're not training as frequent, but you're getting in more training variety. And that's the way I typically go about it. So starting off with the total body, then the upper lower, then the push-pull legs. And from there, if you want to get into a body part split where you're basically hitting each body part once a week, that's fine as well. And at that point, you can kind of manipulate things based on how your body responds. I mean, sometimes the best solution when somebody has hit a plateau with a push-pull legs program is then to go back to a total body workout, but do a more advanced total body workout, maybe something like the 20-rep squat program, and like milk that for what it's worth. I mean, very often I've made some of my best gains by cycling back and forth between different programs like this. I mean, I remember back in the mid 2000s, this is around the time when I was really focusing on powerlifting, and I was following a West Side barbell template, you know, doing the dynamic effort and the max effort days. I was doing that for a while, and I was getting bored with it. So, you know, I was doing that for, you know, several months on end, cycling through different exercises and that. But I got bored with that style of training, and I just wanted to try the 20-rep squat program. So I went and I did that. And in the transition from the West Side barbell program, which was working for me, I mean, I got really good gains from it. But then just because I changed something totally different and something way more basic, you know, the 20-rep squat program is just a very basic total body workout done 3 days a week, but it's brutally hard and brutally intense. But in the transition of doing that, I made some of my best gains ever. I mean, I've seen personal best lifts in the bench press, personal best in the squat and deadlift and everything after about 8 weeks of doing the 20-rep squat program. So, you know, sometimes you can go through the whole transition of starting off with a basic program, getting more advanced and more complex with your program, and then going back to the basics can spur on new growth all over again. So for all the people who've been asking about, you know, full body versus body part split, it all works. It all works. It all depends on the phase that your body is at. And a lot of times, once you hit a plateau with an advanced program, going back to a basic program can start the whole growth process all over again. So it really just comes down to monitoring how your body is responding to the training and being open to trying new things. You know, once you realize that you've hit a plateau with whatever it is you're doing, be open to trying something else. And sometimes that trying something else might even be going back to the basics, not making the program more complex, but making it more simple and mastering the basics. And a lot of times, when you start talking to advanced lifters, be it advanced power lifters, advanced bodybuilders, advanced athletes, and if you have a detailed conversation, if you kind of find out the nuts and bolts of their programs, a lot of times the most advanced guys are not doing crazy complex things. They're just masters of the basics. You know, the fundamental basic stuff that, you know, most people who've studied bodybuilding and fitness to any degree have probably heard of. All that basic stuff that seems so, I guess, mundane to a lot of people, that's the stuff that the advanced guys are masters of. And I don't mean masters in terms of they intellectually know it. I mean masters in that they're actually practicing it on a day-to-day basis. I mean, knowing something intellectually versus doing something day-to-day as part of your lifestyle, you know, eating, living, breathing it, that's when you truly know it. And I found that the guys who are the most advanced, that's what they're doing. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just master the basics, living it and breathing it and doing it day in, day out, and over the course of a long term. You know, they've been masters of the basics for years, and that's why they're, you know, at the level that they're at. All right, let's move on. Well, I know I kind of went on a bit of a rant there, but I don't know. Sometimes it's good to get a rant out. Raider, okay, he was asking that. Chris says, facial bloating, how do you get rid of that? If you're getting bloated in the face, I would say it's probably food allergy related. That's kind of a weird one. But again, I would guess it's probably something allergy related. Uh, you might want to get, check with your doctor, probably even get an allergy test or check with a dietitian or something like that. That can be a complex issue if it is allergy related. And sometimes people go through the whole process of like an elimination diet, because if you have like intolerances to dairy or intolerances to eggs or fish or some of these common food intolerances or food allergies, that can cause bloating and issues like you're explaining there. So I would probably go check with your doctor and even probably schedule an allergy test to see if there's something that could be triggering that, because facial bloating, swelling up like that, that's not normal. You should not have that. Okay, creation says, hi Lee, I'm 19 years old. I'm sitting at 15% body fat, 186 pounds, somewhat visible abs. I started cutting. How many cardio sessions would you recommend? I'm also doing a 5-day bro split. Okay. How many cardio sessions? I would recommend daily cardio. And again, it doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be super high intensity, but get outside and do something. It could be going for a walk. It could be going for an easy jog. It could be using cardio machines at the gym. It could be going for a bicycle ride. Something. In my personal experiences, when I've been training for fat loss, like especially getting ready for bodybuilding competitions, my fundamental staple cardio that I would do is to get outside and walk for an hour a day. If you did nothing more than that, walked for 1 hour a day in addition to your diet and weight training and all that stuff, you would see phenomenal results over the course of several weeks. I mean, if you did that for say like 12 weeks, you want to follow a 12-week cutting diet and combine that with 1 hour of walking per day, you would lose fat and you would see huge progress. And the thing is, walking is not crazy intense. It's not going to break down your body. It's not going to hinder your ability to do hard weight training workouts and recover. But it is going to burn fat. It's going to be a form of active recovery. And it's also a form of relaxation and, I guess, active meditation. I mean, to get outside, especially if you can walk in somewhere where it's peaceful, like walking through a park, or if you live by a beach, go for a walk on the beach, or if you live in the woods and go for a walk through the trails. I mean, if you have to, you can walk through the city, but obviously that's not as relaxing. But getting outside in nature, walking, and just forget the stress of the day, and this is just my time to kind of like mentally and physically deload, breathe in some fresh air, and just like let the stress of the day evaporate for that time that you're outside. I mean, it feels good physically, it's good for you mentally, and it'll also burn off the body fat in the process. So I mean, it's one of the best things that you can do. I know it doesn't sound very hardcore when people are looking for advanced fat loss strategies, and they're thinking, oh, should I do high intensity interval training and blah blah blah. I mean, I'm not knocking it, but you'd be amazed at the results you can make by getting your ass out and walking for an hour a day, and do that day after day, week after week, month after month. I mean, if you're looking for a cure for maintaining a lean physique year round, walk an hour a day. I'm telling you, it works. All right, Ken Becker is joining us, and he says, opinions on a ketogenic lifestyle, particularly in terms of muscle building and overall health. If it works for you, hey, go for it. I'm not a fan of long-term ketogenic diet myself. I've tried it in the past, and it is helpful for burning fat, but as a lifestyle, doing that day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, not for me. I like my carbs too much. Being honest with you, I like the well-balanced approach. And I actually made a blog post discussing this a while back. Basically, when you look at all the different nutritional strategies, like you'll talk to some people who are, they love high carb. and they function on high carb and they advocate high carb. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have some people who love low carb, high fat, and they function well on low carb, high fat, and they advocate low carb, high fat. And then in the middle, we have the majority of people, right? It's all like a bell curve. I'll probably, if you want to go to it, let me open up a new window here. And if you want to go to my blog, just go to leehayward.com. And I'm just going to tell you what the name of the blog post is so you can go check it out for yourself. Go to, just give me a second here. It's a blog post. The title of it is Low Fat, Low Carb, Low Protein. What's the best fat loss diet? It's right on the main page. Go to leehayward.com. Just scroll down halfway down the page and you will see it. It's called Low Fat, Low Carb, Low Protein. And in that blog post, I go into talking about all the different diet trends that we've seen over the last, in recent years. We've come full circle, right? Back when I started training, it was low carb. That was the way to go. And then, people say, well, that doesn't work. Then it was, back when I started training, it was low fat. I think I screwed that one up. Low fat was the way to go when I started off, right? Back in, say, like the 80s, 90s, that range, it was always fat was the enemy, low fat's the way to go. Keep your fat low, boom, boom, boom. Then that didn't work. Then it was the other way around. Well, carbs are the enemy. Keep your carbs low. And everyone advocated the low carb diets. And, it worked for some people, but overall, it really didn't make a huge difference. And now we're kind of coming full circle where now we have the vegans who are saying, well, it's not the carbs, it's not the fat, it's the animal protein. You want to keep your protein low. And we've seen people follow that with mixed results. Most people are going to function optimally with a balance. Say like 1/3 protein, 1/3 carbs, 1/3 fat. That's where most people, if you look at the bell curve of the extremes, you're going to have the extremes who function on the high carbs. You're going to have the extremes who function on the low carb, high fat. But most of us are going to be in the middle where we function the best on a moderation, well-balanced diet. That's where I personally find that I function the best. If I cut my carbs low, I suffer. I feel the negative impacts from it. If I cut my fat too low, I suffer and feel the negative effects of it. And even if I cut my protein too low, because a while back I even went on a vegan experiment. I tried going vegan for a while to see how it worked, and I hated it. I did a whole video on it. It didn't work for me. So I find that the well-balanced approach. If I were to break up my macronutrient split, I'm getting about 1/3 protein, 1/3 carbs, and 1/3 fat. And when I eat that way, I feel great. I have well-balanced energy. It's sustainable, and it works for me. Now, the thing is, you need to find what works for you. And most people, I'd say like 80%, are going to function in that well-balanced range. Some might like a little higher carbs, some might like a little lower carbs, but that well-balanced range is going to work for, say, 80%. Then you're going to get the 20%, like the 80-20 rule. Then you're going to get the 20% who are the extremists. Some people are going to function really good on extremely high carbs. Then you're going to get, some people to the other end going to function really good on high fat and low carbs. But those are the extremes. Most people don't function optimally. I mean, if you do, then obviously tweak your diet to adjust it accordingly. But most people are going to be in the middle where they function the best on a well-balanced diet of about 1/3 protein, 1/3 carbs, 1/3 fat. And that's my opinion on that. David Mitchell is joining us. Says, Lee, I love the videos. I've learned a lot from them. I can only work out for 45 minutes a day. What program should I follow for size and strength? Well, you can make a lot of progress with 45 minutes a day, but obviously, if that is a strict, like 45 minutes per day, not an average of 45 per day, then you're going to have to be particular and well organized with your training. So I would probably focus primarily on doing something along the lines of weight training one day and then probably cardiovascular exercise the next. Or if you want to include a cardiovascular exercise, you can include it separate from this weight training. So, I mean, I really need to know more about how your structure and your day-to-day split would be. But as far as a quick and efficient 45-minute workout, probably like you could do a total body routine like the 20 rep squat program. That is a very time efficient program. It works. It's brutally intense, but it works, and it doesn't take much time. I have a video posted up on that if you wanted to check that one out. Another one that I'm in the process of doing, this is my current workout, and I'm actually posting it on YouTube right now, is the upper lower body rotational split, which it's an upper lower body split, but it has a rotation aspect to it where each time we go through it, we cycle through different exercises. I mean, that's another option that you might want to look into as well. It's generally a lower volume training that you should be able to get done within a 45-minute time frame. What I find most people have problems with, I mean, it's not necessarily the weight training aspect that causes their time in the gym to go longer. It's when you factor in everything else. Like if you factor in the warm-up routine, then that adds time. If you factor in post-workout cardio, then that adds in time. If you're doing post-workout stretching, then that adds in time. So if you're strapped for time, what I would recommend doing is try and maximize the time that you spend in the gym with weight training, stuff that you have to do in the gym. And then all that other stuff, see if you can do it at home in your spare time. Like if you want to do some stretching, maybe look into doing some stretching at home in the evening before you go to bed or something like that in your spare time. If you want to add in extra cardio, look at doing extra cardio away from the gym in your spare time, like going for a walk first thing in the morning before work, or going for a walk on your lunch break, or something like that, where you can kind of combine times where you have some time to spare and make that more effective. Like, back when I was in college, for example, and I would very often walk on my lunch breaks. When I was going through school, I mean, I would get outside and walk on my lunch break. I didn't want to just sit around the cafeteria and twiddle my thumbs and waste time. I actually purposely made sure that I got outside and kept myself active. So you can kind of look for ways to squeeze in extra activity to make sure that your gym time is more efficient, so that when you're in there, you're only focusing on the actual weight training that you can only do in the gym, and then all that other stuff, the stretching, the cardio, and things like that. See if you can squeeze that in outside the gym when you have more time to spare, basically. All right, let's move on. Wilfred is joining us and saying compound, yes. Don't know what you mean. Maybe he's replying to somebody else's question. Nima's got another question saying, will heavy training screw up my joints in the long run? 5 reps or under, to be specific. I'm concerned with hypertrophy only. No, heavy training is not going to screw up your joints. What's going to screw up your joints is basically pushing beyond your means, poor form, and getting injured. I mean, you can get injured and screw up your joints doing high reps as well. What causes injury to happen is once you get to the point where you're training through fatigue and to the point where your form starts to break down. I mean, if you're doing heavy weights, but you're stopping short of failure and you're still using good form, I mean, a lot of times that's not going to cause injury. But if you get to the point where you're training through fatigue and your form starts to break down, and then you start to swing or cheat or use other muscles to assist you in lifting the weight, that's when you become more susceptible to injury. I mean, looking at a lot of, like, if you were to look at statistics of injuries, a lot of times, like heavy power training, doing low repetition lifts, statistically, it's actually very safe. It's when people end up repping out to failure and then grinding through, and their form starts to break down, and then they start to swing or cheat or incorporate other muscles into play. That's when the injury risk skyrockets. So you need to learn what a true definition of repping out to failure is. And my definition is not to the point where you can't perform another repetition. It's the point where you can't perform another repetition with good form. Once your form breaks down, that is failure. Even if you can still move the weight, you've technically hit failure because your form is broken down. So for example, like let's say bench presses, right? Okay, you're bench pressing away. Once you get to the point where you're starting to struggle and you're starting to arch your back, maybe lift your butt off the bench, or you might have this, tweak or the way that you're lifting the weight, arching excessively. that's failure. Even if you can still press the weight up, technically you've hit failure because your form is breaking down. You can no longer complete another repetition with good form. So at that stage, you should stop the set. Trying to continue to perform repetitions beyond failure, especially with risky exercises, bench presses and squats, and things that have overhead presses, things that have high injury to potential. That's where you need to be careful. So it's not necessarily heavy lifting that's going to cause injury. It's pushing yourself when you're fatigued is what's going to cause injury. And a simple solution to that is, if you get to the point where you can't perform another rep with good form, just stop the set, wait a couple minutes, and then do another set. I mean, this whole idea of training to failure and beyond, I mean, yeah, it can work in terms of stimulating, stress on the muscles and causing hypertrophy that way, but the injury risk is not worth it, in my opinion. I would rather you do 2 sets stopping short of failure rather than 1 set training to failure and beyond. I mean, you'll get more total volume with 2 sets stopping short of failure, and you do so with much less risk of injury. Azim is joining us, and he says, Lee, my question is regarding warm-ups. In the last video, you mentioned the elliptical to warm up joints and ligaments. You also made a warm-up routine previously. Which is better? Both. When I shoot, okay, with my most recent training video, it was a lower body workout, and I did the elliptical as a general warm-up. But the very first exercise in that video was step-ups, which is a body weight exercise. And that in itself is my warm-up for the lower body. So that's why I didn't really go into a whole extensive limber up video doing a whole bunch of mobility exercises, because the very first exercise that I did in that workout was technically a body weight limber up exercise. So I just did body weight step-ups and then progressed heavier with dumbbells and worked my way up from there. So you can adjust your warm-ups based on the exercises that you're doing and the type of training you're doing. I mean, if I was going to do like heavy barbell squats or some other big, heavy, complex exercises, I'd probably do a bit more of an extensive warm-up to warm up the joints, tendons, and ligaments. But in the case of my most previous video, the first exercise that I did, the step-ups, was a general warm-up exercise. So that's why I didn't elaborate on the warm-up routine as much, if that makes sense. Okay, moving on. What troubles did you face when first starting online coaching, and how did you deal with them? What troubles did I face? Quite honestly, when I first started, was back in 1997. I started my very first website. And the biggest trouble, I think, was the internet was very new, and I was very new, and I just didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I was kind of learning it and figuring it out as I go. I mean, there was really nobody to model in terms of online fitness coaches, or very few, because even, the internet as we know it really only became public and legal and everything else in the mid-90s. I mean, before then, it was kind of just like a military network, right? That was what the internet was before then. Military and government network. It wasn't this public communication tool that we have today. But really, I mean, everybody was just trying to figure shit out, and we didn't know what to do. So that was the biggest challenge I had when I was starting out. And I was also still learning my body. I mean, learning what worked and what didn't work. So I guess just the whole trial and error experimentation was the biggest thing that I had to face when I started online coaching. And I guess we're all still going through that to some degree, because it's constantly changing. I mean, the basics of training and nutrition and all that, that's kind of the easy part. Sometimes it's the communication and the technical side of things that can get confusing, right? So I think that's some of the challenging stuff for some people. All right, what other questions we got here? We've got Michael is joining us. This is question: do you have to walk out of a muscle building workout feeling sore or swollen every time? Nowadays, I don't feel either, despite trying variations for each muscle group. No, that's a really good question, and I'm actually glad you asked that one. No, you do not have to feel beat down every time you finish a workout. And what's very often going to happen is the better shape you get in, the more conditioned your body is, and the better shape you're in physically, the less muscle soreness you're going to experience. The people who typically get the most sore and the most aggravation from their workouts are people who are new to training, and they're out of shape and deconditioned. If you take someone who's never worked out before and you put them through a hard workout, they're going to feel agony the next day. They're going to be sore. They're going to be stiff. They're going to be complaining. They're going to feel like shit. They're not going to feel good at all. But if you take someone who's in good shape and who works out on a regular basis and have them go through a hard workout, the next day they may not feel any soreness, or maybe just a little tiny bit of dull ache in the muscles they train, but it's not going to be this crippling, muscle soreness that hinders their movement and causes pain and agony like it is for a beginner who's just starting out. So the more experienced you are, the better shape you're in, the less soreness you're going to experience. And that's a good thing. I mean, it's nice to be able to do a training session and not feel beat up because of it. Just have that as, this is what you do. You can handle this and recover fine from it. Very often, the only time that, very often, the only time that advanced trainers get sore is if they do something totally different that they've never done before. Whether that's a brand new exercise that you've never done before, or maybe an exercise that you haven't done in quite a while, or something that is just totally off the wall. Like, for example, if you've never done an all-out set of 20 rep squats, and then you go and do an all-out set of 20 rep squats, chances are you're probably going to be sore the next day because of it, because it's just a level of training stimulation that your body's not accustomed to. But if you did that consistently, several workouts in a row, then eventually you get to the point where you wouldn't even get sore after 20 rep squats, right? Your body just adapts and grows in response to that, and it can handle the stress of it. So it's usually only when you do something that is totally outside your norm, outside your current physical capabilities, that you're going to experience soreness. But again, it's not required to make progress. You can train in a progressive overload fashion, build muscle, and see consistent progress without that, aggravating delayed onset muscle soreness. Raider is asking, do you think pyramid sets are better for progression or straight sets? I like to incorporate pyramid sets just from the warm-up aspect of it. Start off with a light weight and then do several progressively heavier warm-up sets. Technically, that is pyramiding, because you're starting off small and you're pyramiding up in weight. As far as straight sets, sometimes, depending on the program that I'm following, once I get up to my top weight working set, I may keep that and do multiple sets with that weight. So, I mean, you don't always have to pyramid every single set working heavier and heavier. You can kind of, once you've warmed up to a set weight, keep that weight and perform, 3 or 4 sets with that weight if that's part of your program. It really depends on the type of program you're following. But as far as what's better, there is no better. One thing that I would not recommend is jumping into your top heavyweight right away. Always do some sort of warm-up, even if it's just a single warm-up set for an exercise. I would rather you do some sort of warm-up before jumping into your top heavyweight set, just for the safety and injury prevention. I'm a big fan of injury prevention because of all the stuff out there. There's nothing that's going to slow your progress down more than getting injured. I mean, if you do a bad workout in the gym and, that's not going to hinder your progress. If you cheat on your diet, in the greater scheme of things, that's not going to hinder your progress. If you miss a workout, that's really, in the greater scheme of things, not going to hinder your progress. If you push yourself beyond your means and you get injured, that is definitely going to hinder your progress. I don't know if you can hear my baby playing out in the next room there, but if you're hearing a kid, screaming and playing, that's Harvey out in the next room. It's totally normal. But where was I? Talking about injuries. If you get injured, that is going to hinder your progress more than anything else, because an injury could take weeks, could take months. Some cases might take a year or more, and who knows, in some extreme cases, you may never fully recover. I mean, if you have a serious muscle tear or joint or tendon or ligament tear, I mean, that could screw up your training for life. So injury prevention is really the only thing that is going to hinder your progress. All the other variables, you know, I mean, yeah, they can manipulate your progress, but it's not really going to set you back like an injury will. So that's why I'm such a big advocate of injury prevention. And I'm speaking from experience because I've had some injuries over the years, stupid ones, you know, from not paying attention to some of the basics that I should have been. All right. I'm going to answer a couple more questions and then we'll clue it up. I know, how long have I been at this? This video chat's been going on for a while now. I'm going to have to clue it up soon. I'm all out of coffee. That's it. I can only do one more question. All right, let's make it a good one. Let's see. Shoot, I just lost my place there. Give me a second, guys. There's a whole bunch of questions. I almost like don't want to just stop at one question here. Let me see. Where was I? Haley, I've been consistent with my nutrition and my training in the gym. Now I've reached good strength where I can bench 110 kilos. I'm bulking. Should I still focus on strength or gains? So both, strength and gains. I mean, one goes hand in hand. A bigger muscle is a stronger muscle. So if you're trying to get bigger, you should focus on getting stronger. I mean, there are some exceptions, obviously, but for the most part, yeah, you know, the average guy training in the gym, the stronger you get, the bigger you're going to get. And the bigger you get, the stronger you're going to get. It's going to go hand in hand to a certain degree. I mean, now if you get into like advanced competitive weightlifters or competitive powerlifters, it may not always correlate because there's a lot of other variables that come into play when it comes to strength at that level, like lifting technique, and you know, it's just a lot more advanced. But when you're looking at just regular bodybuilding training and your basic bodybuilding exercises, more often than not, the bigger guys are going to be the strongest guys, and you really want to focus on size and strength. It's not like one or the other. All right, Walex, Walex 11, with toes pointing slightly out, keeping your back and neck straight, aligned to your spine, and act like you're going. Oh, you must be responding to somebody else. Sorry. Let's see what else we got here. Vola says, do you need to squat to develop good quads, or can you do all the other basic leg exercises and still grow legs? No, you don't need to squat. And squats are a good exercise for some people, but they're probably not a good exercise for others. So if you're having trouble squatting, first off, could be a couple of different reasons. I mean, it could be that your technique is off, you just haven't developed the skill required, or maybe you don't have the balance, the coordination to properly squat, or maybe your body at this stage is just not built for squatting, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that could go on. I mean, when I started training, I was not a good squatter. I couldn't do full squats. I just didn't have the I guess the balance and the coordination and just the physical ability to do proper squats. I was that guy in the gym doing the half squats and the quarter squats and thinking that I was doing good. I mean, I couldn't do the full squats. That took a long time to develop, I guess, the skill and the flexibility and the coordination and all that in order to perform a proper full squat. That was something that I had to develop over the course of several years. I mean, I was not a good squatter when I started training, but I still did other exercises instead. I still did machine exercises, you know, leg extensions, leg curls, leg presses, and stuff like that. And I still was able to develop my legs to a good degree with those movements. But as I became more developed and worked on my technique, I kind of developed a fondness for squatting. So now squats are kind of a fundamental exercise in my training, but they don't have to be. And you'll find this with a lot of exercises in that, you know, that particular exercise may or may not be a good fit for your body, but that can change as your body matures and develops. Another example, in my own case, I was not fond of military presses, standing overhead barbell presses. When I first started, I found that a very awkward exercise. I didn't have the balance, the core strength, and the coordination to properly perform that exercise and get a lot of benefit from it. So I always opted for different shoulder press exercises instead, usually a seated shoulder press, a machine shoulder press, or something like that. But as I matured and as my body developed, I actually developed a liking and a fondness for standing overhead barbell presses. Now, of course, a lot of that came down to perfecting the technique, but as your body changes and your leverage changes, as you gain size or lose weight, if you're really overweight and you trim down, or you're really skinny and you bulk up, and your body changes and your leverages change, you may find that certain exercises work better and certain exercises may actually work worse. Your body is not static, especially if you've been doing this for a long time and you've made some progress. So bottom line, if you're trying squats and for whatever reason it just doesn't feel right for you, then don't be afraid to do other exercises instead. I mean, if you train hard, train consistent, train in a progressive overload fashion with other leg exercises, leg presses, leg extensions, leg curls, hack squats, lunges, step ups, whatever, all those other exercises, if you train those in a progressive overload fashion, you can still make gains in the legs. You don't have to squat. And again, that same principle applies to virtually every body part. I mean, you don't have to bench to get a big chest. You don't have to deadlift to get a big back. You can do other exercises to work those muscles instead. But at the same time, be open-minded to sometimes revisiting exercises from time to time. And, you may be surprised. Like, if you find squats difficult now, who knows, maybe 6 months or a year down the road, you may either have the muscle mass or the maturity or the mobility and the flexibility to do them better. So, I mean, just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, that even though an exercise may not feel good right now, it may, as your body changes and matures later on down the road. All right. Well, guys, I'm going to clue this up. I know there's a ton of questions coming through, and I would love to sit here and chat with you and answer them all, but I've been doing this, like I said, I've been going over an hour now, and my wife, Patricia, has supper on the table for us, so I'm going to get ready and clue this up. All right. Well, anyway, thanks again, guys. I really appreciate you tuning in, appreciate the support and the comments and all that stuff. What I'm going to do is I will post the replay of this video chat, and I'll put timestamps down in the description. So if you watched my last week's video chat, you notice that I had all the questions that came through timestamped. So it makes it easier if you want to go back and watch the replay afterwards and jump to the particular questions that interest you the most. And I look forward to doing another one of these video chats with you next Friday. I'm going to try and make this a regular thing where every Friday afternoon, I'm going to jump on for an hour or so and do a live video chat. So have yourself a great day. Have yourself a great weekend, and I will talk to you next week. Take care. Over and out.